Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Walker. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, obviously, we have Cordell still having nightmares about the barn burning and that killed Marv, Gail's husband, Denise's father. And so, for him, motivated by that, as well as just everything, because, August, nearly, burned it, left a burner, a towel or something near, the burner, and it caught on fire, and obviously he kind of snapped at August, and his dad's asking him, what's that about? It's the nightmares have been happening for about, a week, maybe two, probably ever since the Davidsons came back. And obviously for him, he wants to make things right. It's they had this blood feud, but Bonham is no, that family is going to be nothing but trouble, because he wants to invite Gail and everybody. Denise didn't come because she was dealing with everything in Del Rio, wrapping up the case there and everything. So if she was there, maybe the tides would have changed a little bit, but just because it was Gail and Daniel, that kind of rubbed salt in the wound. Because obviously, Walker invites her, but the only reason why Gail agreed is because she heard that Abby was participating in a chili contest. She said, throw my hat in the ring. And Walker's oh yeah, I know the owner of the sidestep, so, you can, you'll be able to get in when you get the, And Daniel was yeah, you might not know me. I don't know you and you don't know me, but family's everything. And he's Walker's family is everything, so you and me might not be that different at all. And that's the thing that still boggles my mind. When you marry into a family, that family becomes your family. But it's all of this is ancient history. But to be fair, it's not ancient history. The Davidsons had to live in the shadow of not only losing Marv. That was just the first of many dominoes that fell because of that. So this family's going through a lot of hardship. So Daniel, when he went into it, their feuds became his. Because maybe it's Daniel has his own complicated family situation. So when he bought into his family, this is the first true family he's at. Because you never know. Maybe it could be a situation of maybe he grew up in a foster system and he never really knew what that, a family was until he married Denise and bought into his family. So that's probably also why divorce is hitting him so hard, because it's right, this is my family. This is probably the only family he's ever really known. And mind you, could maybe he lost his real family at a long time ago and just bounced from different home to different home, or just, I said, in general. I don't know. But just to be in... It's just so interesting for him to be so invested that he's taken upon his in-laws, because I guess to him it's you're not in-laws, you're family. You might as well be Gail might as well be his mom. But it's just the way she's able to whisper in his ear, I don't know. I think she tugs at some dark strings inside of Daniel that I'm just I find that so fascinating. I'm just you are so invested in this family that you're starting fights about family that I guess is yours, but you get what I mean? It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that as someone who's, not married and hasn't married into I've never really gotten close to any of my significant others' families. I've always been tangentially connected to exes' families, but that's about it. Nothing so deep that I'm ready to pick up their blood feuds. So I don't know. Maybe it's just my perspective on things, but I just think it's so weird that he's all in like that. But obviously Abby, once again, is not too happy about Gail coming into the competition, because it's she's going to do what she's going to do. She's going to cause trouble. Now, I'm sorry about what happened, but she's that, but for Cordell, it's a chance to kind of bury the hatchet, especially because the last time, it's not he left him high and dry on purpose. He was working. Your daughter could contest it. Well, Denise could contest to that more so than anybody, but Daniel is not going to hear anything other than that. Because he only sees red when it comes to the Walkers. Gail's the same way, too. Denise is a little more open to it. I think it's just because of, her and Walker's history. At the same time, this is all happening. You having the Trey and Mickey situation where things are complicated there. Because even Walker has more information about the situation than Trey does, but I don't know if he realizes what's affecting Mickey as much as because he thinks the going undercover thing is what's affecting her the most. And Trey is trying to be the supportive boyfriend, I'm trying to give her space, but usually they have an open conversations, we've been to war together, we know, we've been through each other's side, if we could survive that, we can survive anything. But Mickey's keeping a lot of stuff buried, even to the point, because Walker's I get it, you feel a loss because of, the line between Yvette and Mickey, and it's she's right, I hate when you're right, but it's she's telling Walker what she thinks he needs to hear, because it's a thing of he can't understand. To some extent he can, but also because of the whole Emily thing he can, but it's also a little different too, because there are aspects about Duke's life that he did have to let go and compromise. So there is some extent to that. Like, I think he still never fully experienced what Mickey did, but he did to some extent. So he probably could understand even more so. But because even later on, he's telling Trey, it's like, yeah, that's not my right place to, like, you know, speak on, because Mickey is, you know, she's not all there. Like, it's just like, even when she's with Trey, you can tell like her mind is kind of elsewhere, because she's thinking about the whole Garrison thing, especially when that song, especially because she played it, so Walker knows like how significant that song is, because it's like, well, he probably doesn't know that like that's from a mixtape, like what Garrison, I think he has some idea, but I don't think he fully knows like what Garrison's death did to her, because it's like the history they have, but also being like feeling the blame of like, right, I'm the reason why you're dead, because she's the one that wanted to take this assignment. It's like, if she did, maybe, I don't know, because she talks to Abby about it later on, and Abby, you know, she's like, right, like as someone who's got like years of experience like with men, like understanding like that, it's like, who is it? Because it's like she's picked up a sixth sense, because she knows there's another man, and it's like his name is Garrison. Obviously, she didn't go too much into it, but Mickey was like, he made me start questioning my future, because I think for her, it's like, yeah, he was out of my life, but the moment he was back in my life, I felt for a moment like, the fact is, I felt that feeling. Like, even though I have Trey in my life, I felt that feeling, and maybe it's just making her question, like, maybe it's just her future as a Ranger, maybe just her future with Trey, a combination of the two. It's like, things changed for her the moment Garrison died, and so she doesn't know how to really open up about that. And Abby talks about like her experience with the Davidson. It's like, if I had handled things differently, maybe we wouldn't be in a blood feud situation. But it's like, all you have to do is just be honest with yourself, because eventually, like, these type of things will eventually, the truth will rear its ugly head. But it's like, it ultimately comes down to how you decide to handle this. You've got to be honest to yourself first about like kind of what you want. And Mickey's in the process of figuring it out, to the point she puts up Garrison's painting in their place, and Trey's like, oh, what's that about? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it right now, but soon. And it's like, soon might be too late at that point, because it might be a thing of things might spiral out of control, because once again, the truth will rear its ugly head to some extent. So we'll see how things kind of go from there, but I'm not going to blame Mickey. It's just like, I think it is like, right, like Garrison coming back into her life is just like Denise coming back into Walker's. I think it complicates things in more ways than you'd be. I think she's willing to admit, because she, you know, because Garrison is gone now, but the fact is that she still like got, you know, and I might still be not fully understanding what she's going through, what's going through her mind when it comes to all of this, but you know, maybe it isn't just, maybe it's just something else on top of it, because like I said, I'm chalking it up to just being a thing of, because of her feelings for him resurface after everything, because like it might be a first love type of situation, like Denise was like Walker's potentially, you know. So, which, speaking of love, there's a complicated thing of like, you know, he's with Jerry, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, let me go make sure everyone's taken care of, and then she's some ladies are like, hey, like, you know, that guy is single. I was like, oh, sorry, he's married. And they're like, oh, man, told you. It's like, oh, actually, I don't know why I said that. He's not married anymore. And they're like, oh. And then she's looking at him, because it's complicated, because she, you know, Emily was like her best bud too. And it's like, so like probably like anything between her and Walker, it's like there's something there. But once again, it's just, I was curious about it because they had touched on it in the past 2 episodes. It's there. They're just not really acknowledging it, because it's just kind of like that awkward thing. Because it's also like, how, you know, because Walker has to think about, like, you know, it's like, because obviously he still cares about Emily. It's still a fresh enough wound. You know, it's like, is it too soon? How would the kids react? Would they be okay with it? Would they feel like it's a betrayal? Like, because it's going to be a thing of, like, Walker and Jerry, will they feel like it's too soon? Like, Emily died, like, a year, like it hasn't been long enough. Like, it's been, like, a little over a year, but yeah. You know, same thing for the kids. Well, they feel like it's too soon. Like, you know, so it's just, it's a complicated thing of like Jerry, you know, you can tell it's like, yeah, that much. And I think they'd be really good together, but because you have your history too, it complicates things. Complications all around. Like, that's what this all about. The complications, these complicated natures of all these different stories. Especially because, like, Gail goes over whispering something to Daniel. Daniel comes over and makes a scene. Because they also want to make the Walkers look like the bad guys in this situation. They want to make it... It's like, oh, like... Because what does Gail do? She comes over and she's like, no, I'll do... Like, I wonder, did she think she would win because she would actually win? Or because she knew Walker would feel guilty enough to do what he did? He basically gave the match to them. Even though his mom had the superior chili, because it was... It's like... Because she wanted to put, like... Because the winner not only gets the prize money, but it's also about getting your family recipe on the menu. And it's like, this would be a way of honor. Like, for Abby, it's like, oh, it'd be a way to use my mom's recipe and get it on the menu and stuff like that. But Walker chose Gail's because of his guilt. Because for him, we've taken so much from this. Because, like, after Gail won, and what did she name it? Oh, the barn burner. It's like she was sticking the knife in and twisting it, because it doesn't matter what Walker's done. It's like, oh, he's a good person, he's a ranger and everything. It's like, no, it doesn't change the fact is that she holds him solely responsible, and not just him, like his entire family. Because it's not only like, it sounds like the Walkers did some shady, like not shady, but like they stuck the knife in themselves and twisted it back then. So she's just paying it forward type of situation, paying them back, because it's not her resentment, not only to Walker, but just the way his family handled things back then is what that comes down to. Like, Walker blames himself. He's like, I remember leaving that lantern there and then it was on fire. It's like, but no matter what, you leaving a lantern there, like, even if it was a fire you accidentally caused, like, why is that on you? There's still more to the story. Like, his family definitely remembers more. Liam was young at the time, so he doesn't remember. And Walker, because of the trauma of it all, blocked it out. But what makes it, because the whole point was also like, right, potentially you started the fire. Also, Marv died trying to save you because he went back in to potentially save Denise. So there's still levels to this that we don't know. Like, both sides. Well, we got mainly the Davidson side of things, but we still have not gotten the Walker side of things fully. So, but the Davidson side, right, we lost so much, but we're here, and we won't let you down. Kind of like the Walkers are like, they're the golden family here in town, but it's like, no, we're going to be the ones that kind of take back. And that's what Walker, it's not just Marv's death, it's everything. They had legal issues, everything, like basically the entire town took the Walker side on things. And so for Cordell, it's like, we screwed that family over. It's like, they're entitled to someone, especially because like Gail wanted to take the spin of like, yeah, we're going to open a little, like take this 10,000 and we're going to make it like a sanctuary for like horses, because, Colton and Stella were already taking care of a horse, which even under his breath, he's like, oh, is your stupid family doing stuff? It's your family's fault. And she's like, what? He's like, nothing. It's like, even he, like, regardless of him and Stella being closer now, he still feels that need to, like, crap on her family. It's like, it's not like you admitted that your dad didn't want anything to do with it. Now you're like, oh, it's your family. It's like, what? Like, the fact is he still throws shade. It runs that deep. Once again, I still think Stella and Colton will have like a Romeo and Juliet thing potentially going on. I mean, hell, Walker and Denise kind of were that, well, before things turned bad. I think it still was, because we still haven't really touched on the early days of the aftermath of that, you know? Once again, and that's the thing of like, everyone's got their lens and their view on things, and it's hard to change that, especially when something so horrible and traumatic is associated with it. So Walker's got his perspectives on it, but like, so do the Davidsons, but also like, you can tell his mom and dad are hiding something from him about all that, because they're still telling him it's an accident. But for him, it's like, no, I remember, I'm responsible. We also introduced the fact is the guys that are working for Serrano, it turns out, so Serrano is the one keeping tabs on the Walkers. They've got the entire house bugged. And the moment they found out about Serrano, one of the guys wanted to walk, but the other guy was like, no, we can sell this to someone else, so it's not on us. Like, in case it ever falls back, we can sell this operation to someone. I mean, you literally will have tabs on a ranger. Just, you know, this family makes enemies like crazy, so like someone's going to want to buy it up. The moment they introduced, I was like, oh, it's going to be Daniel. Anyway, maybe Gail is going to whisper in his ear to do it, but it's like, it's definitely going to be Daniel at the very least, even if it's on his own. But, you know, the guy killed his partner because it's like, right, why would I split the money when I could take it for myself? So, who cares? So he meets with Daniel, and it's like, yeah, like, oh, what, the Walkers, and also, like, hey, calls to your wife over and over again. It's like, well, they're getting divorced, but maybe he's going to look at it as a thing of, wait, Walker's trying to make, you already did enough damage to this family. You already did enough damage to Denise by getting her father killed. And the fact is the family had to leave because they didn't have the money with all the legal troubles and the entire town turning against them like they did. So it's like all that. And now you're probably also trying to steal my wife, which is not the case because, once again, that's a complicated thing. But there's the Walker and Jerry thing, which I'd lean more towards wanting there to be a Walker and Jerry thing. Because if there did happen to be a thing between them, what would suck is if it didn't work out, it would be devastating. But if it did work out, I would hope it would. I'd hope they, because I think they'd be a good match together. But he ended up listening in on Walker's confession, like being like, oh, it's my fault. And he's listening in, but like, did any of Walker's previous words mean anything to you? The fact is he was like, yeah, we're at fault. He's like, all that we did to that family, like, does that alleviate some of it? But I guess him admitting like, no, it's my fault, I remember, but his mom still being like, it's an accident. Like, how much of that Daniel's really listening to, how much he's just taking out what he wants to hear and ignoring everything else. Like, it doesn't matter what Walker did, what he's trying to make up for that family. It doesn't matter. Because circling back to it, because I actually dropped it, but this is kind of the whole point that like Gail was trying to make. It's like, oh, my son, he's helping this horse by himself, even though it's like, no, Stella was working with it too. But you don't want to give the Walkers any credit. You want to make the Davidsons like, we are the prodigal family returned, and we're going to rise back. It's like basically at the end of the day, they're going to take everything from the Walkers. Is what they're going to do. We're wanting the Walkers to be in the same shoes that we were in, but maybe, the past always has a way of rearing its ugly head, and it's like, Walker already had to deal with that, with the Duke thing, Trevor and his dad last season, and now it's like on top of that, like, the past rearing its ugly head yet again, but this goes back even deeper. Like, obviously everything with Duke and everything, that went back like 11 months at the beginning of the series, obviously. It's what that all connected to, but this goes back decades, and it's been a blood feud for decades. So hopefully it doesn't have the tumultuous ending that things had last season, and the bloodshed and death. But it's going to get ugly before it gets better. So I'm just so curious to see whether Daniel is, because he definitely isn't going to let his wife know about this. He'll probably let Gail know about it, and she'll co-sign it if she didn't already co-sign it and know about it beforehand. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of go from here, because things aren't slowing down a bit for the Walkers and the Davidsons when it comes to this feud. I think things are, once again, going to get worse before they get better. But I am curious, like, how, aside from like the legal issues and just how everyone ended up treating him, I'm curious, are there other reasons why Abby's like, if I had handled things differently with the Davidsons, maybe we wouldn't be where we are right now. We'll ultimately have to wait and see where all this takes us, the whole Mickey situation and how that plays into her story. Where that potential will take things going forward this season as well. Also, once again, the Jerry and Walker thing, whether will they, won't they type of thing there. So I also completely forgot to also talk about the fact is that Walker did see, well, maybe, I'm not clear on that ending on whether or not he actually saw the camera, like the way his face turned, like he was almost trying to be like, not letting her know, or whether that's just like he's adjusting the photo and just think, I don't know. Like, they didn't make, because we won't really know for sure until the next episode whether or not he, like, because the lighting was there and it seemed like he might have noticed it, but that might just have been a thing of like, man, I'm staring at my family photo and just like, it's making me think about everything. It's because of everything between the Walkers and the Davidsons, but I'm like, I don't know what to make of that, because it seems like that's a face like he might be making, like, oh, what's that? I can't let anyone, like, I'm being watched. I can't, like, I don't know. But like I said, the next episode will be indicative of that. Like, it seems like he's known, but I feel like that's still that's ambiguous enough for you to be like, he might not have noticed it. I think he did, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Definitely not going to help when he does eventually find out, like, because the camera stuff isn't going to necessarily lead back to what's his face? It's going to lead back to Daniel, because Daniel is the one that's kind of taking over the operation right now. So that's definitely not going to help any bad blood between the Walkers and the Davidsons. But it could just be a situation of, well, what I've picked up from, because it's going to seem like Daniel was behind it the entire time because he has access to all that footage. I don't think Home Dude is staying on. I'm sure like he's like, hey, I'm showing you everything I got. This is all yours from now on. I'm bouncing. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.